Ladies and gentlemen, the problem is the blacks. I know that it's like we're going back to that, David. Listen very carefully to what Republican Congressman James Comer said here. Comer goes, there's rampant fraud, especially in minority communities. The problem is not wealthy suburbs or rural counties or everywhere equally. The fraud problem is non-white people. If you have been following American politics long enough, you know that this is an old trope that is back. Republicans lose an election they don't like, and instead of going, why did voters reject us? They start looking for cheaters. This applies both to voting and also welfare programs, etc. They love to insist it's the minorities cheating in elections and it's the minorities cheating in welfare programs. Take a listen to what James Comer had to say.
We're seeing so much fraud in the Medicaid program in particular is because that's federal money that goes to the states. Then the states administer their own Medicaid programs. And what we're seeing, especially in the blue states, is there's rampant fraud, especially in the minority communities, and they're turning a blind eye to it for political reasons. That's the bottom line. That's what those state employees in Minnesota said, and that's what's happening. And I think the only way we're going to stop it is if people are put in jail.
By the way, his pronunciation of program as pogrom is very interesting to me, but that's not really the focus of this particular episode. You know, it's always the same story with these people. The cheaters are certainly in the blue states, but especially in the cities. And they're in the most urbanized areas of the cities. And it just so happens that they're the communities with lots of black and brown voters. This is such an old pattern. And notice something else. There's no evidence presented. There's no statistics that are offered for us or an investigation, or certainly no prosecutions and convictions. It's just rampant fraud by minorities. If the fraud were truly rampant, there would be proof everywhere, and yet they are unable to find it. We would be seeing arrests and court cases and criminal charges and maybe a conviction or two and someone going to prison. Instead, we get political talking points. Now, we've been through this in other ways. He's talking about Medicaid fraud here, but we've been through this sort of routine before. Remember, after the 2020 election, the recounts and the audits and the court challenges and investigations and Republican election officials reviewing Republican states and all of it. And there was just no evidence. We are 6 years into that. They still claim it was rigged, but they presented no evidence, and the narrative is able to survive. The narrative itself is what's useful to them. They are beyond needing evidence for this to be politically useful. If you can convince supporters that losses happen because somebody cheated, and you've got a scapegoat for that, you never have to change anything. And in fact, when it comes to, if we shift now from election fraud to Medicaid fraud, if you can convince people that there are these attractive scapegoats for your political purpose, these black and brown people are cheating the system and your taxpayer money is going to them, this movement of MAGA people will be way more willing to accept going after those programs. If it's really true that the blacks and the browns are taking my tax money to lie about deserving Medicaid, I'm okay with Trump cutting Medicaid because I don't want my tax money going to that. Meanwhile, war in Iran that they're paying for, ballroom, elements of which they've been asked to pay for, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a brilliant way, it's evil genius to get them to look at the wrong thing. We've got to do something about my tax money going to black and brown people that don't really deserve pennies on the dollar compared to what Trump is. Trump's net worth is up billions during this administration. So they don't need evidence. They just need an attractive scapegoat to say, that's the problem. That's what we're doing it. The someone else who's the problem is a black or brown person in a minority community, in an urban area, in a so-called blue city. Quick timeout. If you're watching this on YouTube, please make sure you're subscribed. Not tomorrow, not later. Just do it right now. Let's get it done. We're closing in on 4 million subscribers. I would appreciate the help. Let's get back to where I was. And they can sort of cycle through this for whatever they need. Is it useful for voter fraud? Well, we've got to cut polling places in urban areas and militarize the precincts and all of this stuff. Then it's with Medicaid. It's with food stamps, where the average benefit is a couple $100 a month. Now, I do think that it's worth addressing the free ridership problem. In any big and mostly effective social welfare program, some people will get through the cracks and get some benefits that they don't deserve. But it's really not worth focusing on that if you've calibrated enforcement correctly. And let me explain what I mean by that. You could get free ridership to zero if you dramatically increased what you spend on enforcement. You could assign a team of forensic auditors to evaluate every single application for food stamps or Medicaid or whatever, if that's what you wanted to do, and you would bring the free ridership to zero. But the enforcement would be so expensive that it's not worth it. And so with all of these programs, and this is global, they have expertise that allows them to say, okay, if it's known that there's no enforcement, there will be some people who just go, sign me up, right? If it's that easy. On the other hand, if we do that scenario I mentioned, a team of forensic auditors for every application, we'll have zero so-called fraud or free ridership, but it will be so expensive to enforce that doesn't make sense. We need just enough enforcement. It's got to be to a degree random, where people go, they might catch me, that you get that free ridership down to a minimal level. And that's what I believe we have with most of these programs. That's actually the cheapest. And remember, the money that goes to people in these programs is economically stimulative. When someone is on Medicaid, it leaves them a little money to spend in their local communities, which is good for the local economy. When someone is on food stamps, that food stamp money is spent at local grocery stores with a very high economic multiplier effect. So the program is economically stimulative. In order to have this zero free ridership enforcement, it would be so expensive that it would not make any sense. Back to James Comer. They're back to, it's the blacks and the browns. Anybody surprised? Somehow I'm kind of not surprised. Appreciate you watching. Stick around for this next video, and don't forget to hit subscribe so you actually see our uploads. You can also catch the full podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.